Samdoesarts. The master of digital art, his work is absolutely mind-blowing. And if you're like me, you're probably amazed too. So, you want to draw like him? Don't worry, I got you. Here's how to draw like Samdoesarts, step by step. The master of digital art, his work is absolutely mind-blowing. And if you're like me, you're probably amazed too. So, you want to draw like him? Don't worry, I got you. Here's how to draw like Samdoesarts, step by step. I chose this beautiful artwork as my reference for today's study, because I've always been inspired by the way Samdoesarts paints his characters. There's something really unique about how he handles light, color, and simplicity that still feels very cinematic. I started by making a sketch, keeping in mind some of his signature features: big expressive eyes, a small delicate nose, and an overall soft structure to the face. I didn't spend too long perfecting the lines because I knew I'd be painting over most of it. Once I had the base down, I jumped straight into coloring. For this piece, I didn't use any special brushes. Most of my work was done using just a rectangle brush and a graphite brush. Sam doesn't rely on soft brushes or blending tools. Instead, he paints more like a sculptor, building form by pushing shadows and lights back and forth until it all comes together. His compositions are another thing I admire. He always keeps the focus on the character. The backgrounds are usually simple, sometimes blurred or abstract, and he often adds some foreground shapes or light flares to add depth and visual interest. One small detail I noticed that he does consistently: he uses a warm orange color right between the shadows and highlights on the face. It's subtle, but it makes the skin glow naturally and adds so much warmth to the portrait. This painting took me more than 4 hours to complete. I know Sam could probably do something like this much faster, but I really enjoyed the process. I was honestly surprised by how satisfying it was to paint the armor. Getting those reflections and textures right was a fun challenge. I used ibispaintx on a basic tablet. No stylus, no pressure sensitivity, no fancy screen. Just my fingers, simple brushes, and a lot of patience. I know many people think you need expensive tools to make good art, but I want to prove that it's not about the device. It's about the skill you build with what you have. When I started digital art, I didn't even know who Sam was. But over time, I kept seeing his art everywhere. Bright eyes, perfect lighting, amazing characters. And the moment I actually looked deeper into his process, I was shocked. He makes it all look so effortless, yet there's so much thought behind every stroke. I chose one of his artworks today because it had so much energy and mood. I didn't want to copy it exactly. I wanted to understand it. Why does it feel so alive? How does he make the colors glow? These were the questions I had in mind as I worked. I started with a rough sketch. Nothing fancy. I focused on structure and proportions, like getting the eyes placed right, the nose small and soft, and the expression feeling natural. At some point, things looked a bit off, so I used the liquify tool to adjust proportions. It's one of my favorite tools. It feels like sculpting after drawing. Then I jumped into color. I didn't use soft airbrushes or blending tools, just a rectangle brush and a graphite brush. I'm learning that soft blending isn't always the answer. Sometimes painting with hard edges and sculpting light with color gives a much more powerful result. I also made sure to build contrast slowly, starting with shadow, then moving toward light. Just like Sam does. Something I always notice in his work is how he uses warm orange tones in the transition between shadow and light, especially on the face. That glow gives the skin so much depth, and I really wanted to capture that here too. After the main rendering, I zoomed out to check my composition. I kept things simple, just like in his works. Character in focus, background subtle, and a few vis. It's not about adding 100 details. It's about making the few details work together. Toward the end, I added some textures with a brush just to bring out small details like skin texture, fabric, and light noise. These small things don't seem like much, but they bring life into a flat image. The whole painting took me around 4 to 5 hours. And while it still doesn't look exactly like Sam's work, that's not my goal. My goal is to learn, understand, and grow with every piece. And this one definitely taught me a lot. If you've ever doubted yourself because you don't have the right tools, I hope this video shows you, your device doesn't define your art. Your mindset does. Let me know in the comments which artist I should study next, or what kind of piece you'd like me to try next time. And if you're learning like me, keep going. We're all building our style, one brushstroke at a time. As I reached the final stage of this artwork, I started focusing on the little things, the final details that could bring it all to life. One of the most effective things I did was using some texture brushes right at the end. That small step made a huge difference. It helped my art really pop visually. The textures added more surface variation, especially in areas like the skin, clothing, and background. It gave the painting a more realistic and refined finish, almost like the character was stepping out of the canvas. Without changing the core of the piece, those texture brushes added depth and energy that weren't there before. It's a small trick, but one I found really powerful when wrapping up a piece. Along with that, I made a very intentional choice to add a bit of red sauce on the character's face. This wasn't just for style, it was to push the storytelling even further. That red mark gave the impression that he's a soldier who's just returned from battle. Maybe tired, maybe injured, but definitely experienced. It added emotion to his expression and made the whole scene feel more grounded and intense. It's small decisions like these, texture and color placement, that shift an artwork from being just a drawing to something that tells a story. That's what I love learning through every new piece I create. And of course, I'm still studying and improving. If there's any artist you want me to do a study on, maybe someone you admire or whose style you're curious about, please drop their name in the comments. I'd love to check out their work and create something inspired by them in a future piece. Thanks so much for watching, supporting, and growing with me. I'll see you in the next one.